Please go ahead and start. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, Jarrett Hubbard, Project Manager for the City of Rochester, and now Link Rapid Transit. Glad to see you all again for another month of our monthly webinars. Today's big subject and topic is we went through a process in early September and built a life-size model of what our stations hope to look like on the intersection of 3rd Avenue, Civic Drive, and 2nd Street there across from the library. And so we'll talk into some detail about some of the things that one can see on that model. I will say, as we get ramped up here, the model will be, we're planning for the model to be out there until actually next Friday, October 8th. So if you still have not been able to get out there to see it personally, you can always go ahead and do that on your own time. There's plenty of boards, and many of those boards that are on the model to walk you through some of the things, or some of the things that we'll talk about through today. So let's start to hit some of our basics. Again, you can ask questions in 2 different ways. The first way is you can always use the Q&A box to go ahead and submit some questions, and we'll do our best to try to answer a few of those via text, but as many as we can over the live. And of course, as always, when we take a pause during some of our pauses, we'll open up and allow, you can always raise your hand, and we'll open up your line to go ahead and ask your question over the air or live, so that you can talk with us. So so just a reminder on those pieces, and then of course we always have the website and the email if you always have questions outside of today's session. With that being said, let's move to the next. Like I said, the purpose of today is to talk about that model and to talk about a few things that are positioned on that model, and maybe even give a couple updates on a couple of things that we have been working through. But the schedule for today is to once again, I'll give a brief project overview, background. We'll talk through the model and the station tour. And then we'll finish up with some more updated site plans of what some of these stations will look like, and some of the work we're planning around those stations as we move forward with the project. And then of course we'll close with Q&A. So to not put much time and waste to it, let's cover the project basics real quick. Next slide. Well, and I should probably start off by saying that as of September 13th, Downtown Rapid Transit is no longer Downtown Rapid Transit. It is now Link Rapid Transit, and you can see the logo and the color scheme on the upper headline. And so that is one of the new things that we have announced here in September. Hopefully we can talk a little bit more about that if there's any questions or in the future. But Link Rapid Transit is a 2.6-mile bus rapid transit, BRT for short. If you hear that acronym later on during the presentation, that's what Bus Rapid Transit stands for. And it extends mostly on 2nd Street, starting at what is currently Mayo's West Lot, which will be turned into a multi-land use transit village with residential, commercial, and retail out at that site, and continuing on 2nd Street, making stops at 19th, there across from St. Mary's at 6th, 2nd, and then doing a loop known as the governmental loop clockwise around 2nd Street, 3rd Avenue, 4th Street, Broadway, and then the left back onto 2nd to head back out west. Service, we hope to offer, a bus will come to a platform or a station every 5 minutes during peak, and every 10 to 15 minutes in the off peak. And general extension of the service hours than we currently offer through RPT. Hopefully during the week it'll be 5 to midnight, and 8 to 11 or midnight as well on the weekends. Next slide. In general, we hope to provide the shelters that are have some comfort, and we'll talk more about those in a lot of this in a minute here. It will provide some safety elements, including emergency phones, cameras, quick and easy boarding with level boarding and multiple doors. Once again, we're talking about 60-foot electric vehicles, which would have 3 doors on them instead of just the 1 or 2 that you see on our current RPT fleet of 40-foot buses. You would pay off board through information and kiosks that will be on the platform. And then Link Rapid Transit will have a leg up on vehicle traffic in the Second Street corridor, thanks to what's known as traffic signal priority. That allows the signal, so when a bus comes to a signal, to give a little bit of a preference to the bus as it approaches the signal. Next slide. Big picture, Link Rapid Transit is come about because of the expected growth in population and employment. We're expecting, particularly downtown, by 2040, and you can see some of the numbers there in the bottom. And then is to accommodate that growth, to make sure that we don't have clogged streets in downtown and other issues downtown. We're looking to try to get people out of their personal vehicles and into other modes. So right now, only about 10% of folks that come downtown use public transportation. And we hope to expand that to roughly about 30% by 2040. Link Transit will also expand the transit options in downtown. This is one about bringing people from outside and into downtown, but also providing mobility options in downtown itself. Making sure that we don't have all downtown filled with nothing but parking garages, alleviate some of that congestion, and we can talk a little bit about that. And there's other webinars we've done about the congestion. Prepare for that growth, and finally, try to provide an improved quality of life for residents, employees, and visitors all downtown by minimizing the number of vehicles. Next slide. The Link Rapid Transit is more than just a transit project that I covered a little bit, and that you'll hear a little more in a second. It also includes some additional work, and just the next couple of slides can just kind of highlight that. One of the improvements that we're looking to make with Link Rapid Transit is the development of separated bike lanes from essentially 18th to 16th Avenues, or essentially that would be on the bridge over US 52 would be the primary location for those separated bike lanes. And an additional between 11th and 16th would be a complete reconstruction of the road with new sidewalks, wider sidewalks, and street amenities as well. Next slide. And then the last area that we are proposing to do some real construction work and changes in the roadway is we're looking at that 2nd Street, 3rd Avenue, and Civic Center Drive intersection where our model sits right now, to do some pedestrian improvements, shorten the crosswalks, and make it more pleasing to walk in that intersection. With that being said, oh no, yeah, there's one more slide. Thank you. Sorry about this. Just a reminder that Link Rapid Transit is just the first stage of a larger process and plan that's been put forward by both the city's comprehensive plan and the city's transit plan, and that of providing fast, efficient service via rapid transit service via the bus, most likely vehicle, across the community. And so 2nd Street is just the first in the line. We look to expand this type of service up and north and south along Broadway, and then also out east along 4th Street. Next slide. And finally, the last piece, just the basics of Link Rapid Transit. We will look to include what are known as transit preference lanes. These would be lanes. This would be the outside of a large portion of the corridor along 2nd Street, with a few exceptions. Would be painted red, and would prefer that only buses be in that lane. I use the word preferred on purpose to say that if you're driving your personal vehicle and wish to make a right-hand turn out of those lanes, you can still do that out of the lanes. The lanes will be painted red, like you see here in this image. And essentially, the reason why they're proposed as part of the project is they improve the speed and the reliability of the bus. They minimize impacts to traffic and make right-hand turns for everyone easier. And with that, I'll pass it off to Nick to go through some of the tour of our station.
Thanks, Jared. Well, thank you all for joining us. I was going to be at the station itself, but we found that with the traffic noise and other technical problems with the sound and other things that it would be best if I kind of take you through a virtual tour of the station here from the office. But the photo you see is actually from an event that we held at the station model itself. And you can see this is really something to experience. This is not a bus stop. This is not your average bus stop. This is a transit platform, 80 feet in length, 10 feet in width, with multiple features that are unique to bus rapid transit service. And so we have held a number of events, and we've had probably a couple hundred visitors to the model itself. And so, like Jared said, I do encourage you, if you haven't had the opportunity, to check it out yourself. But I'm going to, as you may notice, there are some informational boards at the station. And so I guess what I'm going to do is walk through a few of those boards in order for you to get a sense for what those features are that are unique to the station. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about comfort. In order to be competitive with the private automobile, any transit service has to provide the customer with a superior experience. It has to be nicer to take transit than it is to take your own private vehicle. And we believe that the station design arrived at by our architects and our co-designers who contributed really substantially to the design is going to achieve that comfort. So you'll see some of the features here. The model, I'll just add right now, the model itself does not have a roof. Of course, well, you know, we didn't build a complete model. It would have been cost prohibitive, but we built a scale model, like a 3D floor plan. So the entire platform will be covered by a roof. In that roof, we've got some nice lighting and some wooden features that not only give you sort of a welcoming feel, but also safety features and comfort to be nice and bright in the evenings. What you see in front of you is actually an enclosure that's 8 feet by 20 feet. And it's sort of a waiting area that's a shelter from the elements. Glass walls on 4 sides. So you'll see on the left, you see entrance. There'll be 2 entrances to this 8 by 20 shelter, one in the rear of the platform to the left side, and the other on the right side of the shelter structure, opening to the rest of the platform. So again, this shelter is 20 feet in length, so it takes up about 1/4 of the platform. It will have seating. It will have overhead heaters that will help keep the interior of that area comfortable. And it will also have a digital information sign. It will provide real-time information to any passengers who choose to wait there, including things like route and map information, and just an overall separate environment from sometimes our harsh Minnesota conditions. So comfort, that's comfort. Let's move on to the next slide. Accessibility. So our co-design team, who we brought into the process, really wanted to make sure that this was a service that was available for all. And so many of those features that would be necessary for persons with disabilities have been built into the station itself. And you've heard this before, maybe in previous webinars where we've talked about station design, but some of these same aspects are available on the station model. We do have ramps on the station model that do reflect the slope or grade of any ramp that may be needed at stations. Although I will say that by and large, the stations are able to be designed and built at grade, and we're able to achieve a little bit of a separation from the roadway with some reconstruction work. So where necessary, there will be ramps, a gentle slope leading to the platform itself, and a couple different types of features built into the bottom, to the ground level of the platform, if you will, including textured tiles that indicate where the doors to the vehicles. Again, as Jared mentioned, there'll be 3 doors for boarding instead of 2 on a normal bus. These buses, 60 feet long, allow for that 3rd door. And off-board fare payment allows for that fast boarding, but also a tactile floor path built into the platform itself, so people can sort of guide themselves along the way until they get to the door entrances. There will be space available, so if someone is using a mobility device, they will be easy to make their way along the length of the platform. We talked about the warning strip. It doesn't only let people know where the doors are located, but it also kind of alerts them to the fact that, hey, this is the edge of a platform, so care is needing to be taken. And again, as we talked about with level boarding, there's no need to deploy a ramp. All of the vehicles will be handicap accessible, or mobility device accessible without that need to deploy a ramp. You just be able to roll right on board. All right, next one. Here we go, again, kind of just highlighting those features that allow for the high capacity, which is one of the key amenities or features of bus rapid transit that we always talk about. With 3 doors, off-board fare payment, and a level boarding surface, we are able, these buses will hold over 100 people. We're able to board and allied many people very quickly, which reduces what we call dwell time at the station. And that keeps the whole system running much more efficiently. It allows us to achieve those 5-minute headways or frequencies to trips. So you get a sense of, if you visit the station, these very same features are available for you to see at the station. Okay, next. So here again, we're talking about some of the climate control features. The station model is not just an experience to give us a glimpse into the future, but it is also a working prototype. The co-designers that Nathan and his team worked with to come up with the design of the stations had a couple different ideas when it came to climate control. We had the larger 8x20 structure that you saw on the first slide, but in addition, we have these smaller, more individual waiting areas that are also shielded in some way from the climate. So you'll see option 1, it's more of a forward-facing booth, if you will. It will have an overhead panel to kind of trap the heat in those colder days, but high visibility glass on 3 sides to protect you from the wind. And an optional seat that can fold down when needed or for standing. It also allows, when that seat's folded up, for persons who use mobility devices to be able to sort of back into that waiting area without any trouble. Option 1, then to distinguish it from option 2, option 1 is oriented towards the platform edge, in other words, facing forward. So this is one thing our co-designers took a look at. And then if we flop over to option 2, you see a booth could be perhaps a little wider, but narrower front to back. But you see it's those 3-sided booths, if you will, face inward, face towards each other. This in our prototype, and as we walked through, it became clear right away as people started to visit and test out these features that this particular design on option 2 was well suited for families or groups, multiple groups, because you could sort of back a stroller into one side when mom sits on the other side or dad sits on the other side. And it also allows you a little bit more visibility up the street, so you can see buses approaching, or you can have that conversation with somebody. So option 2 is the interior facing seat. So this gives you a sense for how that prototype also helps inform our final decisions once it comes time to construct the stations themselves. In fact, Nathan, I'll put you on the spot a little bit here, and you don't have to speak, but he and I talked at the station model when it was first rolled out, and he said, this is a really helpful thing for an architect to be able to actually physically walk around features that were previously only on paper or on the screen, shared with co-designers and other people contributing. This has really been a tool, really not like any other process that he's been through, and could really help inform and actually probably save a little money down the road, because we're able to make decisions before final designs and construction begins on the station. So that's the booth design. Let's go to the next slide. Always with public transit, safety is our #1 concern. And that doesn't mean just on board while you're driving through traffic. That also means while you wait for the bus. And the good news is that Link rapid transit stations will be exceptionally safe and comfortable places to wait for a bus, although you won't be waiting long. But just to give you some ideas of some of the safety features, we've got really bright lighting, ample lighting to make sure that the platform is never a dark space. Security cameras that allow us, when needed, to monitor what's happening on the platform, or to access video recordings of things. Also an emergency call box, so that if something were to happen, help is only a quick call away. Other things that work in concert with some of these safety features to just make for a better overall user experience include some of those comfort features we talked about before. And I'll go into a little bit more detail. The heated floor or concrete pad will allow any snow that does accumulate. Again, these will be covered, but some snow can accumulate along the edges, will quickly melt away due to the heated platform. Some of the other things, like the fare collection on the platform, again, allow for that speedy boarding, because fare is collected off board rather than a driver having to interact with passengers in any way. They'll be able to just board the bus. And also things like public Wi-Fi are available to help, just as an amenity, to serve our passengers a little bit better. Again, we need to compete with the private automobile. And so we can do that in a couple of different ways. We can offer service that's designed to be really efficient and superior, high capacity, high frequency, every 5 or 10 minutes. But we can also have these physical characteristics that are more about the rider experience. How does it feel to be not only on board the vehicle, but on the platform when you wait for the vehicle? And so a lot of thought has been put into both comfort, safety, and the technology that we choose to use on these platforms. Okay, next. Yeah, so that's what I've got for you. I think we'll take a break, see if there's any questions. Alicia, I don't know if you want to help facilitate that, or if someone would like to raise their hand, they can also do that, and we can unmute you so you can ask a live question. But yeah.
Yes, thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick, for setting up. This is a prime opportunity. If someone wants to raise their hand and ask a question live over there, we can do that. We did receive one question. It did come on in the chat, in the Q&A box, that we'll take an opportunity to try to answer here. And essentially the question was, what type of information will the real-time information signs display? And I think, and then the question was, well, one, a little bit that we asked for clarification from the individual, and the clarification was that I think they would answer it is that we probably will not have a schedule for Link Rapid Transit. other than trying to communicate, the difference between the 5 minutes and the 10 or 15 minutes what time a bus would arrive at a station. So if a bus is, so what in my mind, what would be displayed on those real-time signs is essentially the next bus expected in X number of time. The bus would, that sign would not probably show next bus delayed, unless there's an emergency or something of that nature, by 6 minutes or something of that nature, unless there is a real emergency or there is some issues with construction or weather or that nature. So having the sign say the 2 o'clock is delayed to 2:06 would be inaccurate, because we would just try to make sure that the next bus would get there in the next timeline. Nick, you looks like you have a thought on this one.
Not on this particular question, Jared, but I forgot to mention one thing. So I want to let you complete your thought.
You're good. Go ahead.
Thanks. One of the things I didn't mention about a feature of the station that is on display at the model is the vertical marker. So most stations will have a vertical marker of about 20 feet, 4 feet in height. That vertical marker has also a lot of information. And Joel's question kind of sparked that thought in my mind. The vertical marker itself will be designed to illuminate as buses approach. It will also have an information screen that can not only have system-wide transit information, but perhaps even a mixture of transit-related information and other maybe information that might appeal broadly to people who are either living or visiting Rochester. So, that vertical station marker is also another important feature of the station that is on display at the model that I wanted to make sure I included in my little virtual tour. So thanks.
Thank you, Nick, for bringing that up. Yep, that is correct. And I should, and I noticed, my apologies. Nick Lemmer is the gentleman just speaking. Nick is the public information officer for Rochester Public Transit. And I'll take another second to see if there's any more questions that come on in, and we'll be handing it off to Nathan Johnson, architect that worked on a lot of the station architecture and worked with our co-design. Will be speaking up next. He is from Formula Architects, based in the Twin Cities. And I'm trying to delay to see if we have another question come on in. Otherwise, Nathan, please go ahead and talk to us a little bit about what some of the areas around the stations might look like.
Thank you, Jared. And so we have quite a few sample locations. We don't have every location kind of identified on alignment, but we wanted to walk you through kind of what the context is going to look like at quite a few of the station areas. The first station that you see on the screen right now is 19th Avenue. And just kind of a technical term, we are designing the majority of these stations, not all the stations, for what is called far side, which allows the bus to pull through the intersection and not be slowed down by the traffic light. So that's what you see here at 19th Avenue. 19th Avenue is a unique station because it is actually accommodating a bike way that kind of runs behind the station, and then the station sits out into the street in kind of its own island. It's accessed on both ends, which you'll see is on all of the station areas, we are providing access in multiple locations to the station. It does follow a simple prototype very similar to the model that Nick shared with you, where the shelter is on the far side end and then the platform is in front, and then the bus pulls up right in front of that shelter. So I'll keep moving on. So there is a question here. Maybe we'll reserve some of the questions that we'll kind of respond to at the end. One thing that has changed is the St. Mary's area. Originally, we were looking at a transit center on the north, a westbound transit center, and then a station for the eastbound side, which is on the south of 2nd Street. We've kind of updated those plans, and what we're actually showing is we're showing a vertical enclosure on both sides of 2nd Street right now, which allows access into the St. Mary's Hospital through a subway level. What you'll see is that there's a more kind of traditional kind of station layout, maybe on the southern platform, which is kind of eastbound, where it has shelters and canopy, but then it ties into a vertical enclosure building. And the transit center is a little bit more robust to the north, where it has kind of an outdoor amenity and kind of public space that's being accommodated on that site. One thing to mention, and Jarrett did mention this earlier, is a significant portion of 2nd Street is going to be reconstructed, I believe between 18th and 11th. So that is going to impact this location where the street is going to be reconstructed to accommodate the transit line. One other thing to just mention is, in addition to the rapid transit line station locations, you'll see 2 local bus stops locations are going to be located here. So this is going to be a great transfer point for anybody that may be coming from other points in the community. The next area that we're going to look at is 2nd Avenue. So this is right in front of kind of the Mayo Clinic campus location. And like St. Mary's, we did provide a vertical enclosure on the eastbound station. So on the southern platform here, you'll see it's a much smaller vertical enclosure than we had at St. Mary's, just because of the amount of right-of-way that we had access to. We wanted to make sure that we were maintaining good pedestrian traffic, but having an elevator which will drop you down into the Hilton building, kind of near a cafe that's very close, and that will provide access to Mayo across 2nd Street without having to necessarily walk across 2nd Street and then kind of figure your way into the Mayo building and the Gonda building. So just provide some flexibility for how people will use the transit and then accessing kind of the Mayo campus, which there's a lot of convenience associated with that. One thing that is different at 2nd Avenue from a lot of the other station areas in regards to the prototype, there's a recognition that we have higher pedestrian traffic and higher transit user traffic in this location. So that the platforms are actually larger and provide more sheltering than the other locations, just because of the high ridership at this location. And maybe just one comment, if you want to go back real quick, Alicia. We are recognizing in the design and location of this platform to accommodate a lot of the urban design improvements that are being made in the community between Discovery Walk and Heart of the City. This is specifically adjacent to Discovery Walk, which is kind of moving kind of north and south just to the east of the platform area. So making sure that the platform kind of ties into that effectively as well. All right, you can go to the next one now. And then I think the last station area we're showing you is at Civic Center. This falls back into the more prototypical station where we have the far side kind of shelter enclosure that you saw in some of the photos of the model. Or if you get a chance to go down to the model, you can really kind of get a feel for the scale of that enclosure. It's robust. We had 9 to 10 people very comfortably in that shelter area. It will be a heated environment, which should make it very comfortable for people who want to use the rapid transit line. And we have kind of 5-minute headway, so buses are going to come with a fair amount of frequency. The other thing that you can see here at Civic Center, I think Jarrett alluded to, is the fact that there are going to be some physical improvements specifically to the pedestrian environment around to kind of tie into what's going along on the Riverwalk that exists there now. So I believe that is the last station area, and we would definitely want to open it up for any additional questions that you all may have.
Yes, thank you, Nathan. We did receive the one question. I'm doing some interpretation of the question that came on in here, so I'm looking to my team to see if they agree with the way I'm interpreting the question here. But essentially, the question asks, how does a person exit? And I believe that's referring to the station itself, not to the bus vehicles. So every station will have at a minimum of 2 entrances and exits combined on each platform, usually located on either end of the station. And there are a few exceptions with some of the stations that Nathan just presented, where there might be even more entrances and extra exits onto them. Probably the one unique space is that station located at 19th with that separated bike lane that goes behind the stations. That is a situation where there really is only the 2 entrances on either end of the platform to get on and off. Am I correct in that, Nathan? Is there anything else you can add?
Yeah, I mean, I think the prototypical station has 3 access points. 2 of them onto the platform area, and then an additional one into the shelter area. and a shelter has 2 entrances and exits. If you're referring to kind of the bus, the way the bus loads is you could either load at any door on the bus, and you can exit at any door on the bus onto the platform. And obviously from the platform, then you can go where you need to when you exit as well.
Good. Thank you, Nathan. Joel has his hand raised. Alicia, can you go ahead and allow Joel the opportunity to ask his question?
Okay, can you guys hear me all right?
We got you. Go ahead, Joel.
Okay, so yeah, my first question was kind of already answered by you on that one about the exits in the platform with that bike lane behind. I thought that would be kind of a dangerous thing for kids, especially stepping out behind there and then having bikes coming zipping down the way. That was one of my questions. Thanks. And I did want to thank Nick. I like the idea of the lighted post that lights up when the bus approaches as a visual cue. So if you're looking anywhere else, the visual cue should basically draw you in and say, yep, there's a bus coming. Don't have to sit there and keep looking down the street like we do nowadays going, is that our bus or is that some other bus coming? You know, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
So one comment for you, Joel, we have integrated into the station, and it's going to be at the marker, and I think some of our lighting, we're calling them, it's an arrival beacon, where the lights will flash when the bus is going to be there very shortly.
And I would add to what Nathan just said, particularly on that station marker that Nick talked about and Nathan just referred to. Out at the model that we have right now, that station marker is 15 feet tall. That is actually our shortest height that we're proposing to utilize along the corridor and with our 11 platforms. In some locations, like across from the library, that marker and that station could get up to as high as 24 feet high. So with the hope that, as Joel, you referenced, that someone from a block and a half away could see that light and recognize that a bus is coming and would give them the opportunity to maybe get to that station if they fail to run to the station if need be. To your first comment about the entrance about 19th Avenue station, with the bike lane going behind or in between the sidewalk and the platform. That is a design that the city has been working with, particularly with our bike community, for quite some time now. It was originally conceived that was the design that was going to go on North Broadway with the current North Broadway project, but that's to be determined when and how it gets implemented on Broadway. But yes, your point is still correct that pedestrians crossing that bike lane will have to be advised and be warned. And we've talked about a couple different ways of trying to make sure that those pedestrians, as they try to get to and from the station, make sure they look up. Always, I guess that would always be to the to the left, to see if any bikes are coming as they proceed, or I guess it would be right too. I guess you could do it either way, but look up and down that way to make sure they cross. So signs, additional tactile warning features and things of that nature is what we've already discussed about for that. Again, this is a time to ask questions of the team and particularly Nathan, the designer. Please raise your hand if you got any more questions, or otherwise we'll wait to talk about, let's see if any questions come on in. Joel has his hand raised again. And Joel, you should have it.
There we go. Okay, so I had to unmute myself. She's pretty quick on that mute button. All right, so Nathan, this one I'll field to you, and this is sort of a devil's advocate question. I have friends who are epileptic, and flashing lights will have a chance to trigger them. Now, I'm guessing that the station flashing light for the signal will be a slow enough flash where it shouldn't trigger epilepsy.
I would say yes, that would be the intent. We're kind of basing it on some technology we've used up here in the Twin Cities area, but I think having that feedback just in there and having it for consideration. I mean, part of the reason we're doing the model is so you all can see kind of how things are going to behave in real time. The light at the top of the marker on the illuminates right now, but yes, we don't have the arrival beacon technology kind of integrated in there. But I think that's something we can work through very effectively with our technology team to make sure that they're aware of kind of some of the accessibility issues related to flashing light.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned with. 'Cause I have friends who we play video games, and I have to be careful which games we play because they can cause them to have a epileptic fit if we have too many strobe like flashing light things going on.
Yeah, thank you
So-
for that, and I think we'll take note of that and definitely bring that up as the design continues to develop.
Well, as we wait to see if any more questions come on in, I'll start to make some comments. As I said earlier, the station is constructed and it is a model of what the station would look like. It is made out of pretty much 2x4s and wood. We do have some beam supports underneath. So if you have the opportunity to come out and check it out, it should be open until and in place until October 8th. Yeah, a couple of things that I will say. I don't know if Nick covered them or not, but I'll make sure to since we've talked about a couple of them or one of them at least already. For the most part, the station is a nice replica of what we plan to do with a couple of exceptions. One of those big exceptions is that the model does not have a roof or an overhang of the platform, and so that was just a little more construction cost that we didn't want to build with the model, but the entire platform or most of the entire platform will be covered with a roof in the real model. Additionally, the model has two entrances and exits, of one essentially on either end. The one is a little bit modified. The one on closest to the Civic Center, or the statue behind me, in the image in my background, is a little bit modified for its location, just because we had to modify the station to fit. We didn't want to tear down any of the existing street parking meters and street trees, but otherwise that is the model in itself is in its probably almost an exact location within about 2 or 3 feet of where it would be located, what we propose to be located in the future model location. And obviously we weren't able to provide all the tactile warning mats that we're talking about, particularly to help with people who have disabilities seeing things on that model as well. And as Nathan just talked about, the station marker at that site would be actually proposing 24 feet. The one that's out there right now is only 15 feet, and that we don't have any of the technology referring to a bus approaching that we're talking about that model. With that, I still don't see any questions or still any hand raised. I'll give this an opportunity for our design team, Nathan or Nick, to talk through any last things they might want to reference as we proceed forward.
Oh, looking forward to kind of continuing to develop the station and the input from the community.
Maybe that's a good, thank you for that, Nathan. Good point. We plan to open service in 2025. Most of the construction of Link Rapid Transit would occur in 2024. And we hope to receive the full funding or the 49% that we hope to fund the project from the federal government in late 2020, early 2023, so that we can start the construction process in late 2023, setting up for 2024. With that, we of course, if you have any further questions and outside of our these sessions, you can always hit our website at rochestermm.gov/rapid-transit, and also give us an email via rapidtransit@rochestermm.gov, and give us a call at 507-328-2025. with that, I'll give one more opportunity to see if anyone's got any last questions before we say goodbye. I'll give a little pause. All right. Oh, a question did come on in. It was about the West Transit Village and the West Lot. And the question came on in and was asking, will the city own the West Lot? Currently, right now, the Mayo is the owner of their west parking lot. The plan is that they will develop and own a roughly 2,500 stall parking ramp or parking structure garage out there at that site, and that the rest of the property would be sold off for development and then include that public parking. And so the city is working in agreement right now with Mayo to provide that public parking on that site in another fashion as the site continues to develop. So the long answer is it's on its way. With that, I'll thank everyone again for attending. Once again, I'll please hit up our website at rochestermm.gov/rapid transit, and rapid transit at rochestermm.gov is the email, and 507-328-2025. Thank you for everyone's attention and attending today's webinar. Hope to see you again in the near future.